In this video we'll be looking at Windows Longhorn build 4008. This is a Milestone 4 build compiled on the 19th of February 2003. As you can see on the screen, there is a nice new setup process which has the white Windows logo that we saw in build 3718 on the start button. Setup process ties in quite nicely with the Plex theme. You'll see it's nice and blue. As you can see, the boot screen is yet to change. It's still the Windows XP boot screen. Hopefully you'll notice, by the way, that the setup process now is image based, unlike the Windows XP setup process. So if you think back to the XP setup process, it's just like text on a blue background, whereas this one has been upgraded quite significantly. It's a shame about the lack of colour at the moment, but again, that's a hardware issue. But it would generally look a lot nicer, a lot more user friendly. That's what I'm trying to say. It's quite a simple setup process. There's not much information. It's just a progress bar. I mean, the XP setup process was really cluttered with text in comparison to this one. This one's a lot more like the Windows 7 and 8 setup process, which are very, very basic these days. Seems to be a very, very long wait at this point. I'm not sure what I'm waiting for. Okay, finally. I appear to have accidentally skipped the out-of-box experience because I thought that it had crashed, but I think it was actually a problem with the mouse pointer integration in VirtualBox. So what I've done now is I've let it boot to the desktop, and the colour was awful, so I set the VirtualBox add-ons in compatibility mode for XP and installed them. So it's now got a sensible video driver, so it should look a lot nicer, which it does. Yep, this looks a lot better than it did when I first booted it up. So I'll talk about the modifications to the Plex theme in a second. What I'm going to do first is recapture the video and put the resolution up quite a bit, so it's a lot nicer to look at. So this is Longhorn as it looks in build 4008 from February 2003. This is 5 months after build 3683 and 3 months after build 3718. This is a Milestone 4 build, whereas the last two were Milestone 3. So this is the welcome screen. Still got a clock and a date, which is nice. Still got the white Windows logo. So let's log on. One thing I've noticed straight away with this build is it's very, very slow to do almost everything. Apart from, it seems, installing drivers. So it's not all bad. But it's very slow. It took over a minute to just log off. And this virtual machine has a gigabyte of RAM. So it's not a RAM issue. I'm just going to leave that. Mouse is working anyway, let's just get rid of that. How annoying. There you go, go away. No, don't send an error report. So, this is the default desktop. You'll see it's got a new desktop background which signifies or makes reference to the Milestone 4. Sidebar is still here. The gadgets appear to be the same and appear to act in exactly the same way. I don't think anything significant's changed about the sidebar. I believe these are new options. You can now set the sidebar to sit at the top and the bottom, whereas previously in build 3683 it was just the left and right, I believe. So So let's put it back where it was, because it's quite annoying down there and ugly in my opinion. Okay, it appears to have finished trying to install lots of drivers now, so let's have a look around. So I looked at some of the sidebar things. I think these tiles are the same as they were last time. Let's have a look at settings. So taskbar start menu settings. So I believe all of these options were here previously. You can turn the sidebar off, turn the clock off. All of these are XP options. Don't think any of the start menu options will have changed. And Explorer's crashed already. Let's get it back. There you go. So if you press that button, sidebar disappears temporarily. So that's quite a nice feature to have there. You can quickly turn it on and off. This is the start menu. Again, really not much different to build 3683. Oh, and I've got some more drivers to install, so here we go. As I mentioned earlier, the Plex theme still exists by this point, but it's slightly different. You'll notice that the tab interface here has got some green colouring, which is new. You can still switch back to the Lunar theme. The sidebar appears to only have one theme, however, so it's quite out of place now if you use one of these other ones. Let's see what Classic looks like. Oh, the sidebar's got a rather horrid border around it now. Interesting how they've taken the time to change that logo in all of these theme resources. So this is Explorer. Again, it's like the Explorer in build 3683 really. You still get these nice new headers at the top. Something's gone buggy there, hasn't it? You can turn them on and off there. All of these buttons now have a blue hue to them, interestingly. Is it ever going to stop asking to install drivers? It's incredible. Right, so let's just go back to the default theme. Let's put Plex back. Right, I'm just going to cancel those now because they're really annoying me. Now, I don't know whether you noticed this earlier, but if I go to the options menu for the sidebar, there's one here called New Taskbar. If you click it, you get a new style taskbar. The clock is different, the start button is different, the menu's the same, and you'll notice when I open a window, it now goes to the centre of the taskbar rather than the left, which has always been the case, and to this day is still the case, but in this new taskbar, by default they are aligning to the centre. Interesting. That button there still has the functionality of maximising and minimising the sidebar. This one appears to be either not meant to be there or just yet to be themed. Right, let's go to Control Panel. Classic View. We've looked in Display. I've noticed that the sounds are working now, but I'm imagining they're going to be XP sounds. Yes, they are. Hardware and devices. Again, this is devices and printers from Windows 7. Same kind of thing. You'll notice now that we have the breadcrumbs up here as well. That was in Vista. Different to XP. So let's just go and find an image file or something to click on. Here we go, coffee bean. Right, now you'll notice now there's an edit button which gives you quick access to that command. It's also in this build quite easy to edit the metadata for files. So you can see I can just click there, add whatever I want, press enter, and that's done, or theoretically should be done. Let's try. But I mean, even if that functionality is not working, you can see that that's what was meant to happen there. So now, actually, I don't think I mentioned this last time. The properties dialog box is different. In these Longhorn builds, it has its own window in Explorer. It's not just a dialog box that appears as it has been previously. It actually opens in a nice window of its own. If you press other properties, you get to the traditional properties dialog box like this, but otherwise it opens like that. As you can see, it's very blue. Everything's very, very blue. RE 6.05. And who would have thought that this is where we would end up? I mean, at the moment, this is miles away from Vista. They're just completely different operating systems, aren't they? It's incredible. I mean, this is just XP with lots of blue paint at the moment. Let's have a look at this Longhorn screensaver. So there you go, Longhorn screensaver. I mean, really, this is just at the moment a very slow and buggy XP. Like I said, has got a coat of blue paint on top, but otherwise, there's really nothing remarkable. I don't believe this one has the desktop composition engine or any aero stuff like build 3718 does. Oh, let's have a look at these. So, oh no, that's interesting. So if I set the taskbar, the new taskbar, to the same side as the sidebar, it appears to squash the sidebar down there, and then it puts itself up there. That's odd. This is very confusing, actually. Let's put it at the top. I mean, it's nice that it's very customizable at the moment. I mean, this is more than can be said for Windows 8, for example. I mean, where are all the customization options these days? There aren't any anymore. So, considering that, this is quite tweakable, really, isn't it? So this is the My Contacts window. It's obviously not quite finished, and you can tell really by all of these different elements here that Microsoft is really trying to bring a lot of functionality into Explorer itself in certainly these early builds, and to an extent that was the case in Vista as well, with the My Contacts, hardware and devices. So anyway, this is build 4008. Next build we're going to look at is 4015 from April 2003, so 2 months after this one, and we'll see at that point in the next video what's actually changed, so I will see you then.